Hi, I'm Dave Harris at Thought Clearing, and I want to talk about a problem that many doctoral dissertation writers face, which is the sense that their research is meaningless. I talked about this in my previous video when I said that there were two flavors to this problem, one of which I called the ivory tower problem, and that's what I want to talk about here. The ivory tower problem refers to when you start to feel like your research is out of touch with the real world and that the subject is so esoteric and specific that nobody except maybe a handful of people will ever care about it at all. You know, you try and explain your work to your parents and their eyes glaze over and they roll their eyes and they say, honey, that's great, I love you, but what does this have to do with the real world? Right? That can be a real emotional burden. The sense that your work is small and specific and esoteric and won't matter to many people is a real emotional burden that can be hard to bear. And I would like to try and alleviate that burden with a little thought clearing. The ivory tower is a phrase used to critique academia as being out of touch with the real world. The gleaming white ivory tower is free from the dirt and grime of the real world. I think that this is perhaps appropriate if scholars are debating how many angels can dance on the head of a pin, but it's maybe not appropriate for the majority of researchers who are interested in real-world issues like social problems and education and psychology. Most researchers are doing actual empirical research, and they're looking at what things are really happening in the real world, and they're trying to describe new ways of understanding the real world that can help people thrive. So the reality of the ivory tower is that it's not disconnected from the real world. It's intimately connected with the real world. It is doing its utmost to be connected with the real world in the strongest way possible. The reason that it gets accused of being out of touch with the real world is because people in the ivory tower look at the world differently than people who are outside of it. If you're in the ivory tower and you're specializing in something, you may have a very good idea about how things operate in the real world, and people who deal with that same domain of experience with practical experience may feel something very different from what you believe. Doesn't make you wrong, doesn't make them wrong. You could make a mistake in your research, but often researchers understand things in ways that help society move forward. When people said the earth was round, that was a valuable advance despite the hostility that they faced. When Copernicus said that the earth rotated around the sun, that was a valuable advance in many ways despite the hostility that the idea faced. So if you, in your research, find an idea that seems to be out of touch with the real world, because other people think it's out of touch with the real world, well, that may not be you being out of touch with the real world. That may be them being out of touch with the real world. The fact that, a separate flavor of this, the fact that your work becomes very specific and esoteric is partly a product of your search to understand things that other people don't understand. If you were doing what other people did, that would not be novel, that would not be original. You would not have an opportunity to do something new. The whole point of research, of original research, is to see things differently, to check on things that have been accepted, to expand your knowledge. And that means working in areas where there aren't a lot of people working, and that means that there aren't a lot of people necessarily who will be interested. That does not mean that ultimately what you do will be boring to many people. It just means that in the immediate present, the nature of research is that it is specialized and esoteric because you're looking to see the world differently from how people have seen it in the past. So if you're starting to feel like your work is meaningless and out of touch with the real world, reconsider what research is and why you've been there. And reconsider whether it's the possibility that you're feeling out of touch with the real world because other people are telling you that you're feeling out of touch with the real world. And consider that maybe your specificity is something that you chose that allows you to do good research and that you will be able to generalize later. So for all these reasons, I would encourage you, if you're feeling like your work is out of touch with the real world, to reconsider. Have the confidence of your convictions. Have the confidence that the decisions you made to get where you are today were good decisions. Think back about why you are today, why you have gotten to where you've gotten, what decisions got you there. Chances are you thought about them carefully. And chances are they were motivated by your desire to connect with the real world, to recognize real world problems. So if you're feeling that your work is meaningless, that it's out of touch with the real world, I beg you to reconsider. Think about what research is. Think about what motivates you to do research and what you have been focusing on and why you've gotten there. I'm Dave Harris at Thought Clearing. Thank you for listening to my video and watching my video. If you have a question, I would love to hear from you. Thank you. Bye-bye.